My friend, Matt Riemann, it's good to have you back.
Great to be here, mate. Thank you.
I always enjoy our time together on and off camera. We have a lot of good conversations, but I think you have a message that needs to get to the world, and so I always enjoy being able to record these and get to share them. There's times when I've had conversations too when I'm driving in the car, and I think you are too, and I'm like, man, I wish these would have been recorded because there was some really good stuff in here.
Yeah.
But it's good to have you back. We're doing our Quantum Live tomorrow. You're speaking again, and you have such an incredible impact on everyone. Something that shows up for the people that don't know you is just the level of detail you put into every person you meet. On our last conference, that was what so many people said. It was like you took the time to meet with every single person that wanted to talk with you and minister to them in the way that you do, and we'll get into some of that today. So just want to say I so appreciate you and the human that you are and what you're giving the world.
Thank you, my friend. And right back at you. I love these conversations because they breed awareness. And I think that's one of the biggest things, that if we can help people just be aware of what's outside their box at any moment in time, then a lot of things can change personally for them and also for the world. So I love that we're here having a conversation. I love the quantum academy that you guys are running, and excited to get into that tomorrow and for the talk today.
For such a time as this. So let's play a little catch up here from the last conversation. You've been working on Shae, which we're going to get into in a little bit, so I don't want to spend too much time there, which I'm very, very excited about. You've been working on a documentary for Netflix, which is called, do you have a working title or real title for it yet?
We're still TBC, the title.
Okay.
Yep, it's coming together last minute, I think.
And we have a launch date for it yet?
Not yet either. It'll be 2025.
Okay.
So it's...
You've been recording for a couple of years now? Yeah?
We started around July last year.
Okay. So
it's the first... actually, no, I think it was August last year. So probably about a year ago. And we've got a few more. We filmed at a bunch of retreats that we ran for live healings, and we've done a whole bunch of just filming ad hoc around the place. So we've got another retreat that's coming up in October in Bali that we're filming at, and then we've got another retreat I think in Mexico, in Thailand or Mexico in February. I think is our last film. Somewhere
Thailand or Mexico.
Yeah, and that'll be our last lot of footage we've got. So it's turned from initially a documentary into a docu-series because they said we can't do this in 60, 90 minutes. So we need this over 6 to 8 episodes. And now it's turned actually the film for multiple documentaries that they're looking at doing. And
multiple documentaries.
So it's really interesting. So there's a docu-series that will come from the core one that we did, which is on miraculous healing. So the potential for doing, for supernatural or extraordinary things to occur that defy science or logic or medicine. And the other thing that's been really interesting that's come out of this is because we're taking a bunch of people through the process of teaching them how to heal and how to access their spiritual gifts and abilities to do miraculous things in the supernatural space. That was something that everybody was so blown away by that they've said we need to do a documentary on that, and actually started filming a second angle with a whole second team. So there's another whole team that's shooting a concept called the Healing House, where people come into the house with whatever issue they've got. There's then myself and our healing team that will go through in that, and a bunch of people who are learning, almost like an apprenticeship, if you like, that go through. So it shows us teaching the principles of healing, teaching all the things we'll talk about probably today on quantum consciousness, spirituality, and the fact that everything as we see is not actually as it is. And there's amazing and incredible and miraculous things that can occur in spaces that we aren't aware of. And so that's been really interesting to see the response from us going through the healing as a healing team, also the new people coming in that are having mind-blowing experiences themselves that were just never expected it. It's the new reality TV show concept that I think is going to probably take off quite significantly after this. I guess they call it a pilot. So we're really excited to see how that goes, but it's amazing, and there's been miraculous things happening with the people, the students that are coming through the process, and also, of course, the people that are at the house. So it's a concept you can imagine back in the Big Brother days or the Kardashian style with actually meaning and purpose that's there. It's like, wow, I actually got to sit there and not just experience somebody learning this, I'm part of it, but we also do it so that there's something for you at home while you're watching, so you can actually do healing and things on yourself. So it's really interactive, like this new phase. I think it's probably going to be the next era or evolution of this space.
It's one thing to be able to do it yourself. It's another to be able to teach people in real time. And you're not, none of it is fictional, right? You're not like, it's not a setup. It's all live. And we've kept in touch over the last year. You've been all over the world, right? You were in Italy for a bit, all over the States. So you're recording people not just in one country or in one part of the world, but all over the world who are being impacted by your teachings and by your work. So Netflix picked this up. What's the kind of, give us the overview of the original, what were they trying to do?
Well, they originally were interested in miraculous healing, so that was the concept, and we had some producers that flew out to see me in Australia where I was at the time and said, hey, we want to do a documentary on you, we've heard about you and what you do, to which I initially said no, because it wasn't the thing I was focused on at the time, and we'll share more about the sort of projects for humanity that we're working on a larger scale. But it turned into an open yes for me, because I really feel like it's time to bring a message of awareness, but also a message of hope to people, because that's been the biggest thing that most people, almost, I think it's the stats are 80% of people are suffering from something right now. Yeah. And if you're at home listening to this right now, no doubt you've got some sort of physical pain going on. You might have emotional stress or trauma that's there. You might have belief systems or your mind that's causing you to not feel the best that you can feel. Spiritually, you may not feel like you're even aware of what your purpose is or why you're even on the planet or how to even navigate that or what your gifts or abilities even are. And energetically, you may have no awareness of energy or still think of that as an old school woo-woo concept rather than a science-backed phenomenon that's here today. So there's so many things and so many different places people are in, and they're usually suffering from something that I really feel, if you can just understand those different, what I refer to as realms of existence and how to navigate them, it's really actually so simple. And so the starting point is always just to be able to quantify that, to then be able to actually implement something to navigate that. So that's a high level, but I'm sure we'll unpack that as we go here.
So this is fun. So, and obviously for those at home, you are a deeply religious person who's been very spiritual and disconnected from the real world. I'm being very facetious. He's has a background in
background in science and medicine. I grew up,
you would consider yourself a scientist?
Well, I am a scientist, qualified as a scientist, bachelor and master's in applied human sciences. I taught doctors and health professionals for 15 years at 2 universities in Australia in anatomy, physiology, biology, biochemistry. So yeah, I grew up in science and medicine, very left foot planted in science and medicine. But then I also had, as I think we might have talked about, my own personal challenge. I got diagnosed with a terminal disease, and a similar time I realized these gifts and abilities that I have that I couldn't explain, especially from a science and medicine point of view. It baffled me. This is my early 20s, and if you can imagine as a young Australian male in my early 20s trying to understand what is going on over here, when I know what I've learnt and what I'm teaching, but I can't understand what's happening over here, I'm like, I must understand this. I must be able to explain this. And I'm still working through that today, 25 years later, to figure out what this all means. But the reality is there's things that aren't understandable or quantifiable by science and medicine that exist, that are real, that are true. There's phenomenon everywhere. Everybody's had some touch point or seen some documentary or watched something on miraculous healings here, there, and everywhere that can't be explained. It's a real thing. We just, for some reason, as a society, don't focus on it. We should. I think everybody should be like, hold the phone.
Right.
Hang on, what just happened?
Right.
Did you see that person who had stage 4 cancer this day with a scan, and the next day they had nothing?
Spontaneous remission.
Like, how are we not focused in society as that is our main thing? We're stopping everything we're doing, guys. Let's just focus on what just happened here. That's not even explainable.
Yeah.
Yet we don't care, and we move on with what we're doing. It's like, oh, that was an interesting documentary I watched, and then 2 days later forgot about it. So we're not quite there with our conscious level yet as society at large, but the message really is there's hope for you no matter who you are, where you're at. We can meet you where you're at and actually help resolve whatever that is, whether it's physical suffering or whether it's emotional, whether it's spiritual, whatever it might be. So it's been a really interesting journey, but that's, I guess, something I've been navigating now for 25 years, almost 25 years. And it's, now something that's, I'm excited to see it come to fruition in a way that actually deserves to inspire people and deserves to have people just stop and say, whoa, what just happened there? Is that fake? Did they Photoshop that? Is this made up? It's like, nope, it's real. In fact, you could probably come to a live session at the Healing House and watch it happen for yourself. Or maybe if you're someone who's early in your gifts and ability stage, come and learn this who you are and what you're capable of. So it's a really interesting time, I think, to broach from, we were just talking earlier about the things that have happened in the world and everyone freaking out about that, to like, hey, there's a lot bigger conversation to be had. And I think we're going to be ready for that pretty soon.
And it's one of my, I want to hit on this because it's to me, it lends so much credibility to who you are. You are a scientist. You think rationally. You think logically. I think that's important because there's a whole group of people that you can connect with and relate to, and yet you're open to, hey, there's something else going on here. And just because I can't understand it or I don't know how to explain it or quantify it yet doesn't make it less real. So I love science. I'm a huge fan of science, but it's concerning when I see science become very dogmatic because it's afraid of what it can't understand. And you had brought this up. It's like we see things, and this isn't just in the scientific community, it's mostly humanity. When we don't know what to do with something, we tend to just one ear and out the other, right? We just delete it because we're like, I don't know what to do with this. And there is gold we are missing because we're not willing to take the time, it seems, to figure out, well, hey, what is going on here? How did this person go from stage 4 cancer to totally cancer-free in 24 hours? Like, and I would explain, I'd love to hear your take on this. There are things that we call miracles today that perhaps even within a few decades, we'll have quantifiable data to explain, and we'll use, and we'll get into this maybe a little bit later, spiritual technology or the integration of science and spirituality to explain our world in a much bigger picture, which will hopefully open up the scientific community to a world that's way beyond the first 3 dimensions. What are your thoughts on that? What do you see happening?
Yes, we might have 6 podcasts on this topic. I think it's it's big. And I guess the first thing to remember for all of us is that the reason why science even exists in the first place was, back in the day, actually designed to try and explore and understand the things we didn't understand.
Weird.
So crazy, right? What a crazy concept that we could do that instead of now just, hey, pay a university to get my product validated with science so I can go sell it, which is science now, unfortunately. No offense to scientists, I'm there with you. But we forgot that, hey, there's these things we don't understand and can't explain, and they're real, so we better go explore them and understand them and explain them, which is what science is. So I really see us kind of probably by force or evolution, we're going to come back to have to understand these things because everybody's going to be talking about it so much and doing these things so much. Everybody's like the powers that be will have to be like, we need to figure this out, put some sort of system around this, some sort of understanding around this because it's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, that which you judges you back, right? And in frame, I do find a certain irony in that a lot of what we would call modern day science was birthed out of a alternative answer, I'll say nicely, to the Catholic religious story of the world. And for good frickin' reason, right? When we're putting people under house arrest because they want to suggest that we live in a heliocentric universe, not a geocentric universe, something is wrong. The church was very dogmatic, and it came into a situation where there were things it couldn't explain, and as a result, poorly explained them and lost credibility. However, the irony is not lost on me that we're seeing the scientific community move into the same realm, increasingly more dogmatic, increasingly more judgmental, things it can't explain, discounting things it can't explain, and trying to force people to believe things based on scientific evidence that, as you alluded to, is bought and paid for more often than not. And just because something is peer-reviewed or scientific does not mean human bias does not exist.
Okay, so there's a few things I need to share on this.
Please.
And as you know, we've had some really great conversations over the years, on air and off air, and I think one of the things that is a very difficult topic to tread towards is religion. And the reason is that most people have such strong beliefs around it that if you don't speak their language or don't agree with their beliefs, they immediately will be resistant or get their back up and dismiss. So we're going to need at some stage everybody to evolve from that.
Yes.
However, we're seeing a much stronger move with science towards that area of previously untouched, nobody goes near this religion thing, and science, get away from us. We're seeing a much greater blend here with quantum concepts and understanding around that. And so let me talk about that for a minute because I think this is an important thing. And I just want to preface this with the fact that I grew up as a Christian, as you know. I believe in God and I have a relationship with God. So that's my personal opinion. I never preach about things because I really feel like part of my mission is to help speak to everybody.
Yes.
And I don't ever want to exclude anybody. I feel like there's plenty of people in the world that are preaching a great message around God, and I don't feel like that's my role. I feel like my role is to actually blend those two worlds together, as you touched on, which is science and spirituality coming together, which again doesn't need to be religious, but I really feel like there's such a growth opportunity now for people who are religious and very strong in religion to actually learn and evolve and grow from what we all got taught back in the day. And of course, whatever you get taught is whatever you believe, and that's from regardless of religion. It's as you grow up, your parents program with your beliefs, and your teachers at school and everyone else programs you with your beliefs, and you end up as you are today, which is most of the things we do on retreats along with other things, is change conscious constructs. But the big thing here, understanding quantum, is the thing I was talking about, I've talked about quite a few times on stage recently, which is around the opportunity for religion to evolve and the definition of God, or the way that we're perceived or taught about who God is. And of course, listening to this, if you're not a Christian, for example, translate this with whatever religion you are, or just follow the concepts if you believe in yourself or the universe. It doesn't really matter here.
Yes.
So there's this concept of God here, and we were talking about prayer actually with the last couple of chats, and speaking about prayer and saying, okay, well, you go up praying to God for things that you need. And I was always very intrigued saying, well, why doesn't prayer get answered? Like, if God's this almighty powerful person, how come I'm not answered? And so for me these days, I've got a very different relationship with God than what I used to when growing up in the early church days, which is he's this big bad guy sitting up in the chair that points the finger and says, Sebastian's praying for his shoulder to be fixed. No, not today. Matt's praying for $1 million to come in his bank account. No, not today. Someone else is praying for their baby to be better. Yeah, we'll allow that today. And lots of prayers don't get answered, and some prayers do. It's like, how does that even work? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if God's this nice dude, why doesn't he just answer everybody's prayers and everyone's always good and everyone's always happy? It's like, and everybody's always got their answers, of course, and they've got their theories. No one actually knows the answer, including myself. No one knows the answer. So I was really intrigued and curious by that and many other of these concepts that didn't quite make sense, that most religious people will just dismiss and ignore and carry on and keep praying, and sometimes they get answers and nobody wants to question, or it's bad or deemed as like, oh, it's really bad if you ask these questions. You should just blindly trust and not go there. So I usually don't like talking about this stuff because I don't want to offend people. I don't want to have people who are probably already listening to this already judging and saying, well, that's whatever their opinions are about it. The reason why I'm sharing this, if you're still listening, hopefully, is because I want to bring a new conversation to light, which is around the evolution of all of us. And so if you're listening, I'm one of you trying to help us evolve from my personal experience and my understanding of lots of things that I can't explain with my gifts and abilities, where I see these things that aren't according to the norm. And so one of the examples that I shared recently that I just want to talk about now, because it really makes it obvious, is let's say Sebastian had a sore shoulder. He'd been praying to God for 3 years, or sore back, or whatever it might be, 3 years to fix this, and been praying every day or every week, even been to church, had all the congregation praying. You still got a short shoulder. Like, years later, this is a common thing. Like, 99% of people still have the same problems. Sebastian might come to see Matt at a retreat, or just to see in person, and Matt does something with him for 5 minutes and his shoulder's fixed. Okay, so just hold the phone here. Explain that to me. Okay, well, is Matt as a human more powerful than God? Is God working through Matt? And if so, why didn't he do this 7 years ago for Sebastian? Was Sebastian a bad person that needed to have this shoulder pain for so long? He's just trying to mow in the field and help his family make money to survive for his kids and all those sorts of things. And of course, we can always justify it like we always do from a spiritual perspective and say it's the lessons you need to learn, and whatever narrative you want to put to it's fine. But ultimately, it's like, how come this didn't happen? And so the thing that I've learned in my experiences, this is over the last 25 years, is we're too general and not specific enough. This is where the quantum conversation comes in for science. Very important piece of the puzzle that we've just either ignored or dismissed is in religion. Imagine if, and this is an actual real thing, that if I looked at your shoulder, I might look at your shoulder. I've seen bazillions of people now, where people count almost 100,000 people that I've helped over all my years. So a lot of people I've seen. This isn't just a small thing that I'm just making some things up. I might look at your shoulder, and I might straight away, and when I do look at you, I'll straight away get the answer. We actually just went through this process just immediately before we started recording, and I'll be able to see straight away and just tell you exactly what's going on. So let's say I look at your shoulder. I'm like, oh, okay, the problem is down here. It's actually his liver. It's like, okay. And so I might say, okay, well, what's the problem with his liver? Going back to our earlier part, let's consider and look at the different realms of existence here. Is it something that's physically wrong with his liver? That's something that's not working physically? Actually, it's pretty good. Is it something in his mind that's causing this? Nope, not particularly. Is it something to do with his energy? Well, actually, yes. But where's it coming from? Well, it's actually coming from his emotions. Oh, okay, so he's got emotional things that are going on that happens for whatever reason to have this energy that I can see as clear as day that's sitting here in your liver. And that's the problem and the source and the cause of your issue, which is for whatever reason I still can't explain. I can just see the immediate cause of what's going on. And so I'll look at that and I'll go, oh, okay, cool. It's the liver. Specifically, it's around some things that happened to you when you were frustrated, when you were 3 years old. This is a specific thing that needed to change. And so what I would do in a session with you would be go and change the emotional energy of frustration specifically in your liver at the specific lobe or point that I see it, and change that. And what happens after that? I'll say, oh, Sebastian, I've helped with your shoulder. And you might say, well, you didn't touch my shoulder, or you were on the other side of the world on a Zoom call, whatever. Like, what's that? And I say, well, can you lift your arm? You lift your arm. You're like in tears going, I haven't been able to move my arm for 7 years. I'm completely healed. And if you said, Matt, what did you do? I say, well, I just looked specifically at what the problem was, which has nothing to do with his shoulder.
Yeah.
And for 7 years, the congregation has been praying for Sebastian's shoulder.
Shoulder's rocking. Shoulder wasn't the problem.
And Sebastian's been praying for his shoulder to be better.
Yeah.
So all the intended energy and prayer and everything else has been going on the shoulder, which was fine all along. No one's actually focused on the source or the cause of the problem that was there. And so that, for me, being much more specific with the actual issue or cause or source of the problem there, my healing that I do, and I believe God works through me, we can call it prayer. If I had intention or prayer or whatever you want to call it for that area, I'm just being very specific with prayer. And guess what? Prayers get answered almost instantaneously for 99% of people in the moment. It's like, well, I wish we had got taught that back when I was going through, going through my church years. It's like, well, next question begs, it's like, well, how do I find out what the source of the problem is? Which is what we're trying to do with the world, right? So it's just a really interesting thing. If you're still listening, please, this isn't having a go at any religion. It's saying, imagine if this is something that we've missed, or imagine if this didn't translate through all the ages and all the different translations and versions of the Bible that was back in the day, or it didn't get included or whatever might be there. Imagine if, if you can be very specific with prayer, it's extremely effective for everybody extremely quickly.
Yes.
Versus a lot of our general prayer that we think doesn't get answered by God, which then begs the question for me, so maybe God isn't just the guy upstairs pointing the fingers about what's decided. Maybe this is actually a contribution society. Maybe this is us co-creating with God and being partners with God as to how we actually show up and how we work. And so that's really my relationship with God's changed significantly. And the way that I really feel like religion needs to evolve is bringing in some of these understandings scientifically.
Yes.
Again, the things I see I don't even understand fully at some point. But the understanding around quantum in itself, can understand about specificity, understand about the minutiae that's here, that we can affect change on that level and be very specific. So however your viewpoint is, this is not intended to try and challenge or change. It's just saying, posing a question, would we be open to evolving our very set beliefs of things? And if so, could we at least allow God to partner with us to be more effective in our healing and our happiness journeys?
It's such a beautiful explanation, and there's a few ways I want to go with this, but one of them is, I would say, if we are not getting the intended result of our religious belief, it may be worth looking at whether or not we're operating from an effective frame. Right? So if you're a Christian and you read in the Bible, ask and you shall receive, and that doesn't seem to be working for you, the truth seeker would seek to understand why that is. And we have a tendency in our society, my last guest we were talking about this, we tend to try to chase down symptoms more than problems. Right? And so we very often, the quality of our answers come from the quality of our questions. And if we're asking the wrong question, we're going to get the wrong answer. Right? And so seeking to find the actual problem and treat the actual problem is important. And so I think we're just beginning to understand that we're a three-part being, right? And then there's and that they have an effect on each other. I shouldn't say that. Eastern religion would probably be upset that I said that, because in many ways they've understood this for some time. But Western society has struggled with this idea of seeing anything beyond our physical body. And I love this idea. I think it's been foreshadowed in fiction, in our writing, in our art, where science and spirituality are going to come back together, right? They aren't going to be at odds with each other. They're going to reintegrate. And you see this a lot in a lot of fictional context, right? Where you see the spiritual and the scientific communities coming back together. And I think you're right at the forefront. I can't think of anybody that is closer to the forefront than you are in bringing that forward. And so you have been working for at least the last 10 years. You'd probably say no, my entire life, but at least the last 10 years on Shae AI, which we talked about before, but I think it's worth bringing up here again, which is, I'm going to let you tell it, but it's an artificial intelligence that in some cases may end up knowing you better than you know yourselves. And that's been my experience with it so far. It's been pretty incredible, some of the insights. So why don't you share with us a little bit about Shae AI?
Yeah, well, it's been pretty close to 20 years now that we've been working on it. So it's part of my life purpose, and it's essentially because I see the limitations in us as humans, not in a bad way, but just all of us have these limitations in what we can see at any point in time. You don't know what you don't know is the easiest way to summarize that. And so imagine if there was something that could help you know what you don't know. And the easiest and best thing that ever happened for me in my journey with what I'm sharing is ChatGPT, because everyone's like, oh, great, I can just ask this thing. It tells me answers now. It's like, yes.
You're like, exactly.
Thank you. Congratulations. Has that helped you in some way? Yes. Whether it's writing a thing quicker for you or it's helping you understand what the capital of Germany is because you forgot it was Berlin or never learned it or whatever. It's like, hey, there's answers. You just didn't know them.
Yeah.
So you mean there could be something here to support me to give me answers that I didn't know? Yes. So this is the concept of Shae, and the difficult thing to navigate in the world, which is still the limitation of GPT and every other AI that's out there, is that they're based on general information and based on generic concepts. And so ChatGPT, for example, is based off of the internet. So it learns whatever's there. And so whatever's on the internet, let's say I went and posted all my stuff about what I think is real and you did whatever you think is real, GPT is just going to search that and pick stuff. And whatever you said may not be even real. Whatever I said might be wrong. And GPT is going to pass it on to the next person with low consciousness saying like, hey, by the way, here's the answer. The next person will just believe it because GPT told me and then go and take that into wherever I go in the world. So we're kind of unfortunately fueling the
misinformation because of the large language models are pulling from information that may or may not be accurate.
Right. And we have a saying in the technology field, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
So currently we're training the next wave of our consciousness, which is coming through artificial intelligence, is being trained on garbage. And so what do you expect? Well, you expect whatever you get.
Yep.
But as society, we'll just immediately believe things. And so we go off and do what we do.
Humans don't do that.
Humans, yeah, I've heard it somewhere. So what I've seen very clearly as my purpose of being on the planet is to say, well, hang on. Sebastian needs to know about things specifically for him because there is almost 8 billion unique individuals on this planet. And they're all different. Not one single of them looks the same. Even identical twins are different. So not a single person the same. Everybody needs to understand different things about themselves because they're very different. So it's like, imagine if we could have something that could help them understand who they are, first and foremost, and then what to do about anything in life. Whether you're stuck trying to understand, like, why am I feeling this way today? Or like, what should I eat for breakfast to get more energy? Or like, you know, how come my energy's down from I've been doing all these things and it usually works for me, but it doesn't? Through to whatever, like any questions that you've got, imagine if you could just have something there to answer it, but it's specific to you. It's not based on general information out there. And you know, we talk about this in precision medicine all the time, is we could line up 10 different people in front of me. They all can have the exact same readings for their blood pressure or their labs or their whatever it might be. And what we do is share the concept. It would give them 10 different things because they're different individual people of what to do to solve that. Now, how good do we do with generic answers in the world today, GPT and others? It would tell them all to do the exact same thing.
Right.
It doesn't understand about how different they are. Everybody's so different. So this is the vision for Shae, is to say, well, how do we actually help quantify who you are? And then how do we, once we understand that, how do we help you navigate your life experience? And
personalized or precision medicine.
Precision lifestyle, precision medicine, precision health, precision life is where we're at right now.
And that was the vision. And we're like, what, 10 years from that being a reality?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Things have evolved very, very quickly, which has been exciting. And so we started way back in the day. I think it was about in 2014. We had our first version live, which was awesome.
Wow.
you could walk into a clinic to see a doctor. Back in the day, they would measure you with a tape measure because the AI wasn't good enough for what it is today. Measure you, and it would build, like the computer program would build a version of you sort of in the back end to try and help understand you. And this is our initial stages of the phenotype. So the phenotype is an expression of your genotype. For those who aren't listening at home, you can Google lots of this stuff. I won't do a session on it, but your phenotype is essentially you. So who you are as you look in the mirror is your phenotype. It's your genes expressed. And so we set out to quantify that. We started with genetics and all these other things and realized the limitations in all those aspects. And so it's your expression of your genes that actually are who you are right at this moment in time. And that changes regularly, changes minute by minute, actually. And so we need to know who you are now, because you're a different person than you are later. You're a different person today than you were a week ago, than you were a month ago, than you were a month from now, or 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So how do we understand who you are now? And then how do we actually understand how to navigate that's there? And the easy things I often share with people is to say, well, let's say we jumped on a plane right now, went to Antarctica. And I jump off the plane, I'm like, what do you feel like eating right now, Sebastian? You're like, oh, dude, I'm so cold. Like, take me to a hotel in front of a warm fire, give me a warm bowl of soup, and like, just warm me up. Thank you. I'm like, okay, cool. We jumped on a plane out of Africa. We get off middle. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm like, what do you feel like? And you're like, mate, give me a fresh juice, maybe a light salad. Let's go have some fun. It's like, okay, cool. Hang on. But you've got the same genes.
Yeah.
The same parents that program you, the same information that's there. And your body and intuitively knows you need completely different food, a completely different diet.
Just based on your environmental
based on the
conditions.
weather.
Yeah.
Based on the weather.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Just the weather changed. Not your microbiome, not your brain scans, not nothing. Just the weather changed. You're a different person and you need different things.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Like, what? It's crazy, but actually real. And so not even just the fact that your body changed, your mind changed. Like, well, what do you mean, Matt? It's like, well, actually, going into a cold climate, you're more introverted. Get me into the room. I just want a warm bowl of soup.
Yep.
Nobody talk to me. I'm here. In Africa, yes, let's go explore. Let's have some fun. I'm more extroverted in warm weather. It's like, that's really interesting. So you're not just saying my biology changes, but my psychology changes based on the weather.
Yeah.
Yes.
Incredible.
Based on the weather and based on your age and based on the level of stress that you're under and based on the amount of sleep you've had and based on
levels.
this and your hormones and. So, Matt, you're telling me I got all this stuff going on all the time, all day, every day. It's like, yes, you do. It's like, well, how do you possibly understand and give me exactly what I need? Well, I need to quantify that and know exactly who you are now.
Yeah.
And then in 10 minutes or an hour from now. And in a week from now. And so that's what Shae is. Shae quantifies you in the moment down to the level of gene expression. But this is something that we have as a very simple thing. That's quite complex in the science behind this. We have a 3-day course for medical doctors to teach this. And we're teaching this in over 140 countries right now, which is amazing. This is a very complex scientific topic that doesn't need to be. It can be very simple for the person. Yeah. So again, the simple message is just find out exactly, it's two things. Find out exactly who you are and just find out exactly what's right for you and just do it. That's it. So that's Shae.
Oh man, there's so many ways I want to go with this, but just as a kind of jam here before we get into that, I think we will look back at the last 100 years of medicine with some admiration, but recognize how archaic it is that we treat everyone the same and that we have one-size-fits-all diets. And as a high-performance coach and work with different people, there's no way, and I can't wait to use Shae with my clients for this reason, there's no way I could suggest in good faith a single diet for everyone. It's just not, it's not accurate. And we do the same thing with medicine. I'll take 200 milligrams of this, 100 milligrams, everybody the same, as if we are all the same. And as you beautifully outlined, the conditions of your environment change what you need. And so you're telling me, if I'm hearing you right, Shae has the ability to provide this information in real time.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's probably a lot of people right now that are like, bullshit. Is it possible that we could get a demonstration of how this works?
Absolutely, yes, I can. And so let me share a little bit more concept on this, because it's a crazy what we can do right now with this. And so the concept is large. We've just finished testing this on 150,000 people over the last 5 years. We tracked those people to see what happens with them. So we've done a lot of work in the behavioral aspect and the behavioral learning of the AI. And we've done about 10 years, more than that now, but in the precision medicine aspect to understand about like what sort of markers do you have in the body, like what biomarkers do you have, what's your bloods, what's even happening with your brain, with EEG scans and MRIs, etc., that would correlate with certain phenotypes and how they express in different environments and all those sorts of things. So for those who are listening that call BS, don't worry, I've been there plenty of times. I'm the most skeptical person out there. So we've been through and kicked the tires on this because it's a big project, right? This isn't just like, let's get a product to market and try and sell it. This is actually, let's help humanity evolve from that.
Wow, what a concept.
So to do that, as a scientist and a whole team of science and doctors that are behind this, you have to be extremely thorough and you have to kick the tires on everything, which is why we do take data now from over 140 countries with people that come in, because different cultures, different genes, different everything respond differently to all the things. Like there's so many variables you have to consider. And so we had this as the rudimentary version about 10 years ago was our first version of this, where you'd walk into the doctor. And then since then it's evolved a lot as AI. We've been doing AI before anyone even knew what AI was, and right at the forefront of that. And so we had this concept, I think maybe even last time we talked, about going back a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago now, where we had the ability to scan your body instead of doing measures and things in a clinic. And the reason why that didn't happen any sooner is because the technology didn't exist.
Yeah.
So we've been limited by technology, not by the concept coming to life. And it was interesting because back when I got shown this vision about what I'm here to do on the planet, there was a person that was holding this, which I thought was a credit card. I was holding a credit card. Maybe these days it's a phone, or maybe sometimes the phones are going to be smaller over the coming years. And it was this hologram, and this person that was there just breathed into this hologram, and it immediately diagnosed them. It created this thing that they took in their mouth, which I think was just a 3D printed pill, would be the best way I could say that now, and immediately cured them. And I was like, wow. And it was like, actually, that was the first part of it.
That's incredible.
The second part was they then took this, they went, turned it around and scanned their body up and down like this, and it detected the frequency in their body that was the issue, that was out of coherence. It changed and adjusted it in the system, and they put it back, and then it emitted the right frequency into the body to change it, and it rebalanced everything.
Imagine if our cell phones did that right now.
Well,
versus the opposite.
That's actually the vision, right?
Yeah.
So that was like, hey Matt, go create that. And this is again in my early 20s.
Go create that.
And I'm like, what? I was like, that's really cool.
Sure.
Like that's so cool. Just like every Star Trekky sci-fi type thing out there. It's like, that's really cool. And that's been my life's work to get to here. And so we had this, the first version of this, or the latest versions of this, I should say, have been really interesting because we've now so advanced with the AI that we take the scan of your body. It actually the AI then goes and builds a digital twin of you into the system, and it creates a digital Sabastian. So it's here. And then the crazy cool thing is then Shae, which is an AI, and your digital twin, which is a digital version of you, they start having a conversation. So this is you and me as humans. Yeah. We've got no part in this. So Shae goes and talks to digital Sabastian and says, oh, hey, Sabastian, what's up? Have you got any problems going on in your body right now? How are your organs functioning? Let's have a look at your hormone levels. Let's have a look at your brain function. Let's have a look at all these specific things, and starts to interrogate this digital twin of yours to then get all the answers it needs. And so Shae here, in this equivalent is your coach, your doctor, your dietitian, your guru, whatever you want to be.
Guru.
It's everything. And it's understanding all this about you. And then it turns back to you as the user or the person and says, oh, hey, Sabastian, I just had a chat with your digital twin. It just told me this about you. What do you think? And it says things, and we've started recording all the responses. People are like, what just happened right then? Is there cameras? Like, did you call my mum? Like, my best friends don't even know this information about me. Like, what? This is just crazy. Like, it's unbelievable that's there. And the latest addition and evolution for that, which I'm going to show you right now live if you're open for it in a minute, is that we've now got the digital twin in a format that can actually represent a human. And so we talk about artificial intelligence. The next evolution from artificial intelligence is artificial general intelligence, which kind of sounds a little
AGI.
bit backward, but it's actually AGI is an evolution which is trying to be as equal to a human.
Yep.
The next evolution from that is artificial superintelligence, which is smarter than a human. And so we've mastered the artificial intelligence, the artificial general intelligence, which is where we're at right now. And we're working very strongly in the artificial superintelligence, which I'd like to share with you about after this. But to answer your question, is what would Shae say is you could now ask, I've got my phone in my pocket, you could talk to my digital twin, which is here, and my digital twin knows everything about me, and it actually knows everything that I know. So this is the evolution into the ASI side of things. So you can actually have a conversation, an AGI conversation right now, which we can do live on this call, live in this podcast, with my digital twin, and you can ask it a bunch of questions. And it's going to know information about medical things. It's going to ask information about consciousness, about quantum, about whatever. You can ask it anything you like, and it will give you an answer. And this will be, again, this is very specific. So you can get down to the point where in our system, we quantify phenotypes. As I said before, we'll scan your body, understand your phenotype, and we have different names for those.
There's
six different groups.
Yeah.
So we actually found there was so much that was in the broader range. We had to start to make sense of this, and so we actually it's like a 4D splatter graph, and everybody sits somewhere on this graph, if you like. And in a 2D format, it's 360 degrees that's there. And so we talk about people, you might sit at some degree on the circle. So, for example, you would be a 70 degree that's there. And so, we used to teach this to doctors. This is about over 10 years ago. We were teaching courses on these specific degrees that were there around this circle. And the feedback we thought was going to be amazing, down to like, hey, you're this degree here. Here's the specific genes you have without a genetic test. Here's the specific things you can do to change this. Chemotherapy protocols, like everything specific. And the feedback, everyone's just like, way too much information, don't understand it. So we dumbed it down, and they said, it's too much. We can't learn this. We can't do this. And this is before AI can do what it can do now. So I said, okay, we'll make it more simple. We actually broke it down into 72 types. Same feedback. We were excited. Feedback.
Only 72 now.
Only 72, which was actually quite a challenging thing to do, just so you know. And so we now broke it down to 6 types that are there, which gives a good high-level ballpark understanding.
Yeah.
And then you can go deeper. So it's a starting point. And we've done this now for public education to say, hey, why don't you find out what we've called your health type that's there? Because there's some amazing insights you can have. And this integrates understandings from the Eastern. So it integrates Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, as well as Western conventional. So it's across the board. It's really amazing what we're doing with it. And so this is, you'll sit on the thing. So you, for example, will be a crusader that would sit at 70 degrees on the circle. So when you talk, and of course I know that, so my AI, my digital twin knows that. And so you can talk to it and ask specifically for that. And if you were someone else that sat into like a connector, which is someone who's far more outgoing and personal or whatever else that's there, or a crusader who's usually like very detailed focused and understands these bigger concepts, like to think about future and all those sorts of things. Or if you were somebody else like a diplomat that's there, that's very diplomatic in your approach, very ordered-centered, great at science, logic, etc. Like there's different things, as we talked about, that you need to do for different people. And there's ways that we've tracked that, measured that. So my digital twin knows that sort of information, right? So with all that in mind, let's do a demo. As you know, I teach consciousness, I teach quantum. We run spiritual intelligence things all over the shop, supernatural things. So you could literally ask my digital twin pretty much anything. So would you like to try it?
I would love to try it. It's a few things here. I got an opportunity last year to do an older model, and I was unintentionally in tears as I was reading some of the content and the feedback, because it is a very cool feeling to feel seen, even if it's by technology.
Yes.
And then there was the level of accuracy then.
Yes.
It shocked me. I was expecting it to be good, but not that good.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited to see how far it's come. And to be clear, the questions I'm asking wouldn't be data point that you entered, right? It's accumulating this, or maybe some of it is, some of the relevant stuff would be, but this is stuff that it's picking up by understanding who you are, not entering that information, just because I'm sure people in the audience are going to be listening and go, well, yeah, if I asked a question that you put the information in, that's not that impressive.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go through this process. Again, you would scan yourself. So any smartphone in the world, you can use, this is where we're at right now. Yeah. So you can scan yourself with any smartphone in the world, and that's it. And away you go. That's literally it. And it will build this for you, and the AI will talk to you and guide you through it. You can then plug in your Apple Watch or your Oura Ring or whatever else that's there, and we work through the course. So you can just cruise around in daily life with your digital twin, wearing your Apple Watch and your Oura Ring, and that's it. That's all you need to know, because it's pulling all that data, understanding about you without you having to do anything whatsoever.
Incredible.
So it's pretty amazing. And so where you were blown away before, that's a level of accuracy we're at and have been at for a while, which is mind-blowing. Now the evolution has just enabled us to be so interactive, and this is really this next era that we're really pioneering right now, which is interactive health, interactive medicine, interactive biology, interactive things, where similar to the principles of GPT, hey, go and ask a question and get an answer, which is garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
I'll get a generic answer that may not actually be true.
Yep.
Compared to like, I can get specifically everything for me that I need to know, down to what food I should eat for breakfast and how many grams of whatever and for what reasons and why. This is what our digital twin does. So again, if the digital twin was there for me, it would answer it for me. But if you've got concepts, it can also be here to help and support you. So in this aspect, it would be me if you came to me for advice, which lots of people do, about things. And yeah, I'd invite you to ask anything you like on consciousness,
Yep.
universal intelligence, quantum, whatever, and also ask about maybe if you've had some symptoms or something going on.
Yep.
You can ask that and see what it says. Do you want to try it right now?
Sounds great.
Okay. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera, but let me get rid of my stuff off the screen for a sec. You might need to zoom in for this. But so this is literally where we're at. And it's not just texting. Like I can have a chat just like a human. So, hey Siri, call Matt Digital Twin. So I'm literally calling myself right now, my AI self.
Incredible.
Right. What would you like to ask?
Hey, Matt, I'm curious, how close are we to the singularity?
That's a fascinating question. The singularity, the point where artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, is a topic of much debate. Some experts predict it could happen within the next few decades, while others believe it might take longer. We're already seeing rapid advancements in AI, especially in areas like machine learning, quantum computing, and personalized health technologies. At Shae AI, we're at the forefront of integrating AI with human intelligence to enhance well-being and consciousness. The singularity isn't just about technology overtaking humans, but also about how we can harness this power to elevate our collective potential. Are you ready for the profound changes this could bring to our world?
So this is a thing. So I'll just pause, but yeah, far away, keep asking.
Thank you. That was awesome. I'm dealing with some symptoms I'd like to describe to you.
Okay.
I have been fatigued. I've been fatigued over the last week. My Oura Ring data says that my resilience and recovery is low. Symptoms include elevated heart rate at night, low HRV while sleeping, as well as my temperature has been higher and heart rate has been higher while sleeping. Do you have any clues on what might be going on there?
And I'm a 70 degrees crusader.
Absolutely. Let's dive into this. Elevated heart rate at night and low heart rate variability, HRV, while sleeping can indicate that your body is under stress or not recovering well. For a crusader, especially one who thrives in a 70-degree environment, this could be a sign that your body is struggling with temperature regulation or perhaps dealing with an underlying stressor. First, consider your environment. Ensure your sleeping space is at a comfortable temperature for you. Crusaders often perform best in cooler environments, so if it's too warm, it might be affecting your sleep quality and overall recovery. Next, look at your daily activities. Are you pushing yourself too hard physically or mentally? Crusaders have a strong drive and can sometimes overextend themselves. Make sure you're balancing intense workouts with adequate rest and recovery periods. Also, consider incorporating some light cardio in the morning and muscle building resistance training in the afternoon, which suits your health type well. Lastly, pay attention to your hydration and nutrition. Dehydration and poor diet can significantly impact your heart rate and HRV. Make sure you're drinking enough water and eating a balanced diet rich in nutrients that support recovery. Take a moment to reflect on any recent changes in your routine or stress levels. Have you noticed anything different lately?
And so I'll understand context, but I'll just ask a question here. Hey, Matt, that's really helpful. Thanks so much. But could you give me, if it's a medical issue that might be going on, could you give me the top 3 likely diagnoses or provisional diagnoses that might be at play in my body? So again, it understands context, understands meaning, understands reasoning.
Based on the symptoms you've described, fatigue, elevated heart rate at night, low heart rate variability while sleeping, and higher body temperature, there are a few possible medical issues that come to mind. First, it could be an infection or inflammation in your body. Infections can cause your heart rate and temperature to rise as your body fights off the invader. Second, you might be dealing with overtraining or overexertion. For a crusader, pushing too hard without adequate recovery can lead to these symptoms. Lastly, consider the possibility of a hormonal imbalance, such as thyroid issues. The thyroid gland regulates many body functions, including heart rate and temperature, and imbalances can throw your system off. These are just possibilities properties, and it's crucial to consult with a healthcare professional for a thorough evaluation and accurate diagnosis. Have you noticed any other changes or symptoms recently?
Thanks, Matt. That's great. And let's assume it is a bacterial infection because I'm interested in that, and that's a likely diagnosis. What specific things could I do alternatively outside of taking medicine to heal from that in the fastest way possible?
All right, if we're considering a bacterial infection, there are several natural approaches you can take to support your body's healing process. First, focus on boosting your immune system. Incorporate foods rich in vitamins and minerals like citrus fruits for vitamin C, leafy greens for essential nutrients, and garlic, which has natural antibacterial properties. Hydration is crucial. Drink plenty of water to help flush out toxins and support your body's natural detoxification processes. Herbal teas like echinacea or ginger can also be beneficial for their immune boosting and anti-inflammatory properties. Rest is another key factor. Ensure you're getting enough sleep and allowing your body to recover. Stress management techniques such as meditation or gentle yoga can help reduce the overall burden on your system and promote healing. Lastly, consider incorporating probiotics into your diet. Fermented foods like yogurt, sauerkraut, and kefir can help restore the balance of good bacteria in your gut, which is vital for a strong immune response. Take a moment to reflect on these suggestions and see how they fit into your current lifestyle. Have you tried any of these approaches before?
This is incredible.
So I'm going to hang out there for a sec so we can talk about that. And then maybe if you want to ask something else about consciousness or things, you can. But so this is where we're at. And this is specific based on you, where you're at in the real. That's where we're at. So understands like a human, context meaning, you can ask any question you like to it. And it's specific for you. So this is trained on our precision medicine, trained on all the things. And it's going to be really, really specific. We actually spoke about this just before the call, if you don't mind me sharing.
No, please.
And you sort of said those symptoms and what do you think's going on? And I said, well, because I can see it in you. I said, you've got a bacterial infection.
Yeah, this wasn't Shae. This was you saying
this is
that.
me as
so
a real human
freaking out
saying
hearing a artificial
and now my
intelligence in
AI
your
is
voice
literally
saying,
what's the most likely
thing.
medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
There you go. And again, back to the reason why we've built Shae is imagine if you can have a companion of sorts, whether it's a doctor, personal trainer, coach, spiritual guru, whatever that's here for you. Imagine if you could just have that to help give you answers when you don't have answers.
Yeah.
Right? We need answers all the time for everything, like everything in life. Whether it's like I'm having a tough time at home with my partner, I don't know how to navigate this with my kids, they're not talking to me, or why does one like hugs and the other one doesn't? These are questions we've got all the time about what's going on. There's answers right here specific for you, and it's really amazing to see. So anyway, that's an example of digital twin. We'll do another one if you like to ask it about consciousness or spirituality stuff, because it's me. I mean, other people's digital twin don't have that, of course, but it's just a really, really exciting time to be doing what's there. So I love your initial thoughts on that experience.
So I immediately imagine if every human was born with their digital twin that is conscious and coaching them from literally the day they are born. How different of a human being would we create? I'm not saying we replace parents or we depersonalize the human experience, but having something that is objective, it's conscious, and it's recording everything is going to give you a much more accurate feedback in coaching and development. To me, that literally gives me chills thinking about the difference that could make in the world.
It's an inevitable part of our evolution. And if you think back now, like all the parents listening to this, self included, it's like, what happens when your 9-month-old gets sick? Were you trained as a doctor? No. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? I wish someone had some answers for me. What are your options? Yeah. It used to be Google. Well, it actually used to be the doctor. Yep. Then it was like, well, I don't trust doctors, so I'll go Google it.
Yep.
And try a few things, yeah. And now it's all GPT it.
Yeah.
So there are your three options: is go to a doctor, Google it, or chat GPT it, right? And all of those, again, nicely said, all of those are going to give you some generally generic things. Maybe a doctor is good, but gives you some specific stuff. But doctors aren't affordable and accessible for most people, right? So we're talking marginalized communities. We're talking scalable impact that's here. Everybody's got a phone. Personalized
and relevant to the individual.
Absolutely. Specific for you.
And without the emotional arbitrage that comes with human interaction. So I read Daniel Kahneman's latest book, Noise. And one of the things, I think we've talked about this, but one of the things he pointed out was how much noise there is in human decisions. So something as simple as the time of day a parolee goes in to get paroled, has a dramatic impact on whether or not they actually get paroled or get out. And not because of the conditions or whatever their crime was, but because of how hungry the judge is. That's how inefficient humans are at making decisions, right? So it's like 5 years ago, say 10 years ago, if you would have told me, hey, should AI be president? I would have said, you're out of your fucking mind. Now I'm kind of like, there's, I mean, that seems kind of a scary thing, but or at least have it as an advisor, right? Because you're eliminating, and there are, and I'd love to hear your take on this. I think I'm not saying emotion is bad. I think emotion is one of the gifts and spices of our life, but it dramatically impacts our perception of the world in a way that can, maybe not guaranteed, but it can manipulate or confuse what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody's hungry, if they're tired, if they're sick, they're going to give potentially different advice if they're in peak performance. Well, AI doesn't really suffer from that. Right. That isn't right. It's not really. So it's going to give, especially if it's been your companion from day one. Right. It just has a much more objective way of looking at the world. And maybe we can argue for, where does empathy matter? Where does emotional intelligence matter? And I do think there are aspects of that we don't want to overlook or don't think that are important. But his book, Daniel Kahneman's book, makes a great case for, hey, we may want to look at a lot of these systems. We are not objective creatures. And as humans, we like to believe in it. And I notice the more intellectual someone is, and I'll say the smarter somebody regards themselves, the more they're more likely to think they're objective. Right. And that to me is even a bigger concern. And I think one of the greatest indications of intelligence is awareness and understanding, hey, I may not have all the answers. I may not be seeing this correctly. There may be another way to look at this. And so I'm super excited for what this can do. Now, I think and I'll stop here because I want to hear what you have to say, but it'll be interesting how humans respond to technology. And I guarantee you there will be those that want to demonize it and think that it's some evil overlord that wants to overtake the human population. So
it's and there's so many things that you just brought up there. I think probably the first thing to that is our whole motto and slogan has been tech for good since we started. And
that's one of the reasons I got involved with you, is that was right off and I was like, yes.
It's
because your technology is scary in the wrong hands. Right?
It's true.
Truthfully, it is.
Could be. And the fact is that it is so powerful to be able to help you with everything. Again, what do I need to know? It can bring you specific for you the right information, which is, again, everyone out there that's loving GPT, which is amazing. It's generic. It's very unimpressive, not very intelligent stuff.
Yeah.
It comes across as really intelligent, but all it does is just kind of talk to you. It doesn't actually have any base intelligence to it whatsoever. It just got, again, poor training from the internet. So when you're actually talking about someone's life or someone's medical issues or someone's spiritual journey, these are pretty important things to know a lot more specific about
Not
you.
General, but specific.
Than what's there.
Yeah.
And so for Shae itself is, we as you were aware, we have Shae Group. So Shae Group is how we apply this artificial intelligence, which will be soon, hopefully, artificial superintelligence, into the world that we know it right now. And we're disrupting so many industries with what we're doing. And the word disrupting is a standard term for entrepreneurs, but it's more reimagining and rebuilding the things that need to be rebuilt. And so,
which is really, I think, where we are in society. A lot of things are going to be rebuilt.
It's very much where
torn
we are
down
right now.
And then rebuilt.
Yes, torn down or will crumble regardless of what anyone wants to have happen.
Exactly.
And so this is areas that we're applying this right now in, like, for example, we talked before about in schools. Like, this is really passionate for us. We're trying to say, how would we change the world? How would we help end pain and suffering from the world? Well, a lot of the things that you know and that we see is people's beliefs and the problems with their programming and the things that have us to have those emotions or be unhappy or make these decisions that aren't the real us, but these other things that kind of create us to be whoever we are in that moment.
Yes.
That's there. We've been helping people for many years on retreats and everything else that's there to help deprogram or reprogram or decode what's going on and recode their subconscious mind to actually have a different life experience, which is a thing which is great. And lots of people do that now, which is awesome. And it's becoming more of a common topic. Yeah. The boomer generation and even into Gen X was kind of like what is this? And now, the millennials and the Zers and everyone else is just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's get it done. So we're evolving of generations in that aspect. But for us, we need to say, okay, well, who is the future of where we're going with humanity? Well, it's our children, clearly, because they're going to be us at some stage in the next few decades.
Clearly. I love that you're saying that so matter-of-factly, but let's be honest about a lot of the policies and decisions we're making as humans right now. We're passing the buck to the next generation.
Yes.
We're not setting them up for success.
That's true. So imagine if we can have something that can help support us with that as an assistant or assistive advisor. And so this is something we've been working for about 6 or 7 years now in schools. And we help understand, we can scan kids. It immediately understands their inherent learning styles, their learning methods and learning environments for them to thrive in personalized and precision learning.
You mean we're not going to just teach everybody the same way and assume that everybody learns the same way?
What a crazy concept, right? It's amazing. So, and again, everybody's starting to get a bit upset with the current system and my child's not getting this and my child's not getting that and all these sorts of things, and upset at the teacher, and everyone's upset at the teacher or the school and all these sorts of things. It's like, dudes, the problem is the system.
Yeah.
Not the teacher's fault. It's not.
And to be fair, it worked until it didn't.
Exactly. I think we might have even spoken before. Like back in the day, it was great.
Yeah.
You're teaching your kids to throw spears, and I'm teaching my kids to throw spears. And I'm like, hey, dude, do you want to just take my kids
Brave
for
New
today?
World.
Take my kids for today, because if you look after my kids at the same time, I can go hunt for the village. It's like, sweet, what a genius idea that was. Welcome to the world of organized education and collective learning. It's like that worked really well up until probably maybe a decade ago.
Until it didn't. And
now
I think
we're ready for evolution, just like we have been in many times in cycles.
And would you say the reason we're ready to evolve is because the predominant driver of that is consciousness is rising, or what's driving that change?
Yeah, so this is a good conversation. So my concept around this, or the way I see this, is around something even bigger than consciousness. It's around where we're evolving as a collective, and by collective I don't mean just humans. I mean our Earth and even outside of Earth. Okay. So these are bigger concepts and energies that are at play that are going to be rebalancing things as we know it. And so I really see and have seen this coming phase of a time of a lot of turmoil, a lot of challenge that we'll face as a community, as a human race. And there's going to be things we need to navigate, because the way we approach the planet is not sustainable. The way we are growing our population is not sustainable.
Weird.
This is things that at some point the Earth will be saying, hey, this isn't really working. Let's just kind of have an event that needs to change things that's there, which it's done in the past plenty of times over.
Our last guest, we talked about the exact same thing. Yeah, this isn't the first time.
It's not the first time, won't be the last time.
Yeah.
But at some point, we're going to be seeing a rebalance of things that shake up back to something that's sustainable.
Yes.
Hopefully not a full wipeout, but something that's going to be really sustainable for who we are. What does that mean in tangible terms? Like, wow, like our population is probably going to be decreasing or declining. We're going to be having a lot of things that show up. And I think we might have spoken about this before, but there's a number of things that will contribute towards that on many levels. And this next phase is the biggest challenge that we'll face. And on the other side of that, there'll be a big change across the board in our systems as we know it. There'll be a lot of the demise, a lot of the crumbling, a lot of the tear downs, where we need to rebuild new things, because we've finally woken up to the consciousness that we need to have to be part of and present to the next evolution and the next phase.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'd love your take on this. Elon Musk, I mean, a lot of people, but Elon Musk comes to mind, have talked about the real issue is not population growth, but population decline. It's just not showing up in the numbers quite yet because people are living longer. But if you look at generational data, we're actually moving towards population collapse naturally without an event. Have you looked at that data? Do you agree, disagree? What do you see in that? Because it's becoming more of a discussion, and I think it's a really interesting one. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I do, and the answer is, because I'm a scientist, whatever anyone's opinion is, which is data-backed, is pretty much irrelevant.
Yep.
Because you can have whichever argument left or right you like. You can sit here and argue that kale is the best thing as a superfood for you, or kale is the worst thing. Kale, right, it was the biggest superfood. I remember the first version.
Oh my God. Scam. For some people it probably is.
Some people it actually is, it'll cure their cancer.
Not me.
For you, probably not, no. I remember the first version that we had of Shae. This was back in probably 10 years ago, and we did a test pilot group over here in the States. And we had there, I remember one of the ladies that was part of the group, she'd had 20 years of back pain, neck pain, migraines, inflammation. She had rosacea, which was like really bad skin that she was embarrassed to go out in public. Like all these things, seen every best person under the sun, all the doctors, specialists, functional medicine practitioners, all the things, no change. And she does, so her friend told her to come and join this like new technology thing that's going to help.
This was 10 years ago?
This was 10 years ago.
The first time I heard the story, I don't think I realized it was 10 years ago. So when Shae was still baby, it was in an infancy.
Early stages.
This is such a great story.
And here's what it says. So she goes through the story and essentially comes out, and the AI says like, oh, there's two things that are cause. Number one, you're eating too much kale. She never told it was eating kale. She like nothing.
Right.
You're eating too much kale. And second, you're living at the wrong altitude. It's like, what? What? What are you talking
Here's
about?
the punchline.
I didn't even tell you where I'm living. I didn't even tell you. Like, what? That's there. This is 10 years ago. This is Shae. It's like, what? And she's just like, this is ridiculous. This is ludicrous. And I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty surprised by the answer, to be fair.
To be honest.
But like, what are you so upset about? She's like, I have my kale every single day.
Sure.
I grow it in my backyard organically.
Of course you do.
So it's organic kale. That's there. I put it in my smoothies every single day. And say and blah, blah. So she's like, I'm not doing that. That's the best thing I should be doing. And if anyone remembers back to 10 years ago, that was where the kale was the thing.
Just
it was king
ripping.
everywhere. And so that was like, okay, well, you've tried everything else. You've seen everybody else. It's up to you. This is a voluntary program. You can just keep suffering if you want, or you could try something new. And I said, where do you live? And she said, I live in Sun Valley, which is in Idaho. I said, okay, I don't know anything about this.
Ski
Where's
resort.
That? She's like, that's high. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It says your altitude's high. Can you move somewhere else that's there? Like, it's not easy to move. She's like, well, actually, I could move down to a place called Boise, which is much lower. And so anyway, so she did. After much debating, she did. Within 4 days, all of her symptoms completely
4 days.
gone. 4 days, her symptoms had changed completely. Rosacea gone, headaches gone, all these things. Within 2 weeks, everything she'd had for 20 plus years, completely gone. And she's like, I stopped eating kale, which was organic in my backyard, and I changed where I lived in my altitude. Like, what? Like,
That's
WTF?
incredible.
That makes no sense. And then Shae will explain why that's the case. For her, she had too much of, like the kale, she had too much salicylic acid that was floating around her system. Her liver and everything else was trying to excrete it through her skin, which was her rosacea, cause inflammation, all these other things that were contributing. So we could then go back and be like what I call the Monday's experts in the stock market. Like, I can tell you exactly why everything happened yesterday in the stock market.
Yeah.
Beforehand, I can't tell you anything. I can guess and get it wrong every time. But afterwards, I can tell you all the reasons why.
Like, of course.
So, yeah. So right now, it's like, well, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like with precision medicine, I could go back and explain why and try and understand, like, oh, yeah, that causes that. It's like, no one could tell you that up front.
And there was, you
AI
said
can.
for 20 years, she was trying to get a doctor help
Might
her.
have even been more. She'd seen every specialist. She'd like
And none of
named
them.
off, did all the tests, did all the things, and had no idea. Anyway, so this is a long time ago, back in the day. And so this is just, again, the power of what's here. And again, we've gone a long way since then. So, but there's no way you can know that. There's no way any human can keep up with that information. There's no way a doctor can know
Unless
and
you
understand
specialize in impact of elevation on a human being. And
But even then, if you do, you're not a geneticist.
that's what I mean.
and you're not a neuroscientist.
Right, you're like,
and you're not an endocrinologist. There's no way a human could ever know this. Like, it's essential in today's age.
you're integrating a
to have technology.
multidisciplinary approach to aggregate the right information,
You have to.
which is
And-
humans are not educated enough to be able to do that as a whole,
Right.
clearly.
And it has to be specific and personalized for your exact use
Yeah.
case. And so we've been doing this in schools for a long time with learning, precision learning, which is going to disrupt and change the whole entire system for learning.
Yep.
Everyone would like that probably now anyway, but this is going to be the future of what's a mainstay. We do that for behavior as well, how kids are behaving in their classroom. Like, the power of this thing, an educator can sit there and say, here's little Sebastian, which no doubt if we had to guess would have been a little bit of a fun time in classroom back in the day. And
You don't know me.
Here's Sebastian, up the back. We'll ask my digital twin soon, won't we? We'll be up the back of the classroom throwing a piece of paper at Matt's head again. And the teacher's like, again, disrupting the class. Sebastian, come up the front, or you got detention, or you're whatever else that's there, which is me, again, as a teacher, reinforcing that you're wrong, you're bad, all the stuff that's going to cause you subconscious reprogramming issues in the future as a young 9-year-old or whatever, 7-year-old, whatever it might be. And I'm going through this. And why do I say that? Because I'm, as a teacher, upset and I don't know how to handle things. So I'm doing this and I'm trying to put into process these things that you should do, write down what you did wrong, whatever else that's there. But actually, you know what? Just talks to Shae and says, oh, Sebastian, because it knows who Sebastian is. And it says, hey, what strategy should I do with Sebastian right now to change his behavior in the classroom? He's disrupting the class again. Shae will literally say back to the teacher, oh, because it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon, it's nothing to do with his psychology. It's nothing to do with his cognitive abilities. It's nothing to do with him trying to act out. It's actually to do with his hormones. He's got an increase in testosterone in his system right now. This is biological. What just happened? What should I do? Says whatever else, and the teacher reads it out or says it out. Sebastian, would you mind coming up the front for a sec? Could you grab this bit of paper and run this errand to the front office for me?
Exactly. Go take a walk.
And I bet you can't beat your time from last week in under 3 minutes.
Brilliant.
Sebastian runs the thing back to the front office, comes back in 3 minutes, gets a little gold star for doing great things, sits back down. He's a dream in class for the next 90 minutes.
And
why? Because it was biological, not psychological. How do you actually navigate that? How would you even know that without having something like this that's there?
Unless you're
but maybe
gifted intuitive, but yeah.
But maybe it's actually 9 a.m. Same kid, Sebastian, disrupting the class. Shae would say it's psychological in nature. Here's the reasons why. Here's his beliefs, which is what we know. I'll talk about this in a minute. Here's the things that are causing him to act like that in this particular moment. Here's the strategies to do. And in this case, Sebastian, remember we talked about not throwing the piece of paper. That's yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Okay, no worries. What do you think is the best way to resolve this from happening in the future? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Would you like to have 3 ideas that you could write down that we can put into place for next time? Which is exactly what Sebastian
Teaching
would need.
him how to think.
Teaching him how to have critical thinking, consequential natures, but in a positive way that's reinforcing.
And you're not reinforcing negative bullshit stories about the individual.
No negative reinforcement.
They're a bad kid, they're undisciplined, whatever it is.
And he's actually learning all those skills in the process from problem solving, all these things. So it's like, wow, here's an incredible outcome for this person, which changes the classroom behavior, helps Sebastian continue to learn without the bad programming because it was psychological in nature. Like, this is live right now. We have schools using this right now. We have early learning centres, primary schools, secondary schools. We've just got our first tertiary educations on. This is in schools. We do this in corporates. We do this in medical. So, for example, the concept around what you just asked before, you can have Shae as a doctor or even as a health professional. You can upload and plug in any other data that you need to do. So rather than just understanding that based on your scan, I can upload your genetic data. I can upload your blood tests. I can upload anything else that's there. And it's going to syndicate all that information for you specifically, give the exact diagnosis, the exact intervention to do. I can ask it, literally, it's called CLIA. It's Clinical Intelligence Assistant. I can ask CLIA anything which is basically one of Shae's, powered by Shae. I can ask it anything about what intervention should I do? What's the chance of success here? What are his medical risks right now? What happens if I do this and it doesn't work? What's the worst case scenarios? What medications should I be giving him right now? What alternative therapies are there? What biohacking things or protocols got to give him right now? Give me specific reasoning for all these things with evidence-based, etc., and why that should happen. This is all the things that are live right now. Tell me specifically about his compliance, because it knows you as the patient that's scanned. Will he be compliant with this protocol? What's his chance of success? If he's not compliant, what would you suggest instead? Blah, 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 blah. Print this out. Do whatever else it's need to do. That's currently available live off the shelf right now.
Incredible.
This is in the precision medicine basket. Like, the applications that we have here are phenomenal. Like, it's amazing game changers in the fields of medicine, fields of health. We have this in fitness, for example. You can sit there and say, what's specific, like for the digital twin side of things, what specific reps and sets should I do in the gym to get 300% improvement in my results based on who I am? Or how should I lose weight in the most effective way? Which goes contrary to what you'd find on GBT or anything else. It's, again, the best case evidence or the best case protocols or whatever's out there. It's like, well, for you specifically, if you're losing 5 kilograms or 5 pounds, 20 pounds you want to lose, don't work out in the morning. Don't do your high intensity training. Don't do body boot camp stuff that's there. It's going to make you gain weight because of these reasons. Do Pilates at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, what? Whoever told me to do Pilates at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? I'm trying to get buff for the beach and I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. That's not a thing. Actually, it is a thing for people. So we've done a lot of research over the years. We do ongoing research studies with many universities around the world on all these things around precision. And so that's just in the realm of even the physical and the emotional side of things, and emotional intelligence for teachers, for kids in the classroom, for schools. It's amazing what's possible.
So where are we? How close are we to bringing this to the people?
We're very close. We're very close. And we've been doing a lot of, as you know, the beta side of things. The evolution of this has been phenomenal. Like, it's blowing my mind. It takes a bit these days to blow my mind. And the stuff that's
for sure, I believe you on that. So when I see you get excited, I'm like, oh, this must have really taken another leap.
It has really, and maybe we can do a little demo with my digital twin, and we can sort of, I guess, evolve into. We feel like we've done an amazing job, almost mastering. There's no ego around this, so we're not trying to make any claims, but kind of mastering the physical realm, which is like the medical, the health, the aspects. Like, we can do things like right now with differential diagnoses, with very specific interventions, protocols. Likelihood and chances of success, all those sorts of things, we can do that right now. We can plug in genetics and labs and everything, scans, whatever you've had done, and give very, very specific detail. This is all with AI, with no humans required. So that's, I feel like we've mastered that quite a lot.
This is where it gets exciting. Interrupt you, but this is where it gets exciting, because this to me is the old marketing adage: sell them what they want, give them what they need.
Right.
What I really got excited about, as much as I was excited about the health, is what you're about to say next, because I think
Thank you. Yeah.
that's the code. So
I think, and I really feel that Shae's going to be one of the biggest Trojan horses in humanity's ever experienced, and we'll probably be talking about this, or the concept of this, in decades to come. And so the evolution into the understanding about emotions and about consciousness was really profound. And one of the things that we've understood was your biology doesn't drive. Sorry, let me start that again so I get this right. Your psychology is not independent to your biology. And so that's very different to what most people think. And if you're listening to this right now and you have a different belief system, I completely understand and respect that.
Can you unpack what you mean real quick for people that maybe don't get the
Sure.
importance of what you're saying there?
Your biology dictates your psychology. Your body dictates and decides how you think, act, and behave.
And it to me, it's fascinating.
It is 100% predictable.
It's fascinating to me that people would push back on that. I think there are people who are probably more mentally disciplined who can maybe override or mitigate some of the biological urge. But we know this. We're different when we're tired. We're different when we're hungry, right? We're different when we have different desires in our body. It changes the way and how we perceive and what prioritize. To me, that doesn't seem like that should be open for debate. But for some people, it is.
Well, some people have a profession that they do that for a job, and lots of the
terribly
world.
Inconvenient truth.
Yeah, it's not just. I mean, that's in the medical science line of things. Is psychology and other great things, and there's amazing things that psychology has achieved. We use a lot of psychological principles in Shae, but there's also the other aspect that's there, which is in the more the esoteric or the spiritual side of things, where people talk a lot about the psychology. We talk about changing beliefs and reprogramming things and collective consciousness. That's all a conversation, but it's all there. It's like, hey guys, did you realize that actually this body holds the keys and clues to everything that you're thinking, the acting, behaving like, and even your spiritual path? And this is something we'll talk a bit about tomorrow. I think we've definitely covered this in lots of conversations, but the bigger concept of here, over all the things we've even spoken about today, which actually in the bigger themes doesn't even matter about anything we've spoken about today, is your spirit actually chose this body.
Yes.
For a reason.
Yes.
And what that
100%.
actually means...
That's a big jump for a lot of people, but I love what you're saying.
Which you should hear. If you have a body, you have a purpose.
Yes.
If you have a body, you have a purpose. Your spirit chose this body.
Should be a bumper sticker.
It should be.
Or
Regardless of your
billboard.
religion, regardless of what you believe, every major religion believes there's something greater than our human being. It's here with you right now. Your spirit is here with you right now. And there's a reason why the spirit is with you right now. You just might not know what that is, right? And so what if we could actually quantify or understand, what if there was keys and clues in your body, in your biology, that could give rise to why your spirit was here? It's like, oh, that makes so much sense. If your purpose for coming on this planet was to be a weightlifter, what body is your spirit going to choose? Massive, big body, big bones, big muscles, probably big fat, lots of, this huge frame. If your body's like, your spirit was, my purpose for coming to this earth is to be a marathon runner, what body is it going to choose? Oh, this tall, thin body that can just run all day, right? It makes sense. Like, so we must have a physical, biological vehicle that's capable to deliver on our spiritual purpose.
Yes.
Fact. That's really interesting. That changes the way we think about things a lot. And so we've spent probably the best part of just over 10 years trying to understand and investigate that. Back to our science. Science is designed to explore and understand the things that we can't understand or explain. Fact. We've just changed that along the way. We're studying, trying to understand and explain these spiritual phenomenon that's there, that say there's keys and clues in your body that can explain your spiritual existence and what's there, and more so your spiritual intelligence, because you come down into this body to do whatever you're here to do. Most of the time we're like, oh, we don't know what that is. Our Google Translate, which is our mind, doesn't understand. It's like spirit speaking French and I'm trying to speak English. I don't non-comprehender. I don't get it. What's going on here? So this is like just the basic principles, which is a much bigger and more exciting conversation, is like, hang on, can I understand, and can we do, in the way we do our bioscan, can we understand anything about your spiritual intelligence when we actually go through that process? The answer is yes. This is something I won't talk now about all the things we've tested and tried. We've done a lot of scientific research on this. We can't make any full claims, of course, but we're proving out a hypothesis to say your spirit chose this body for a reason, and your body is capable of fulfilling on that purpose, which means if we can understand about your capacity to deliver on that purpose, we can start to understand about your purpose, but also start to understand about reading into the things that are here and happening to you and the reasons why that's happening, etc. And so I'm just going to give a little snippet of something that we've been working on quite a while. That's another branch off Shae, which is spirit intelligence. It's actually called Spirit Intelligence. And there's even a site live right now. This is something we're going to be launching later this year as in its beta form. If anyone's listening to this and they're interested, spiritintelligence.ai, you can go there and you can pre-register for that if you're interested. It's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Like, this is mind-blowing. This should be mind-blowing for most people. Like, what? Is that even a real thing? How is this even possible? This is next level. So this is essentially giving your spirit a voice. And that's what it is. And so instead of you talking to my digital twin that's telling you about what your diagnosis is or how to talk to your partner or how to sleep better or how to navigate your mind, this thing here can even, this operates in the physical realm, in the emotional realm, and in the conscious realm. This can even literally go through and start to reprogram your beliefs around being unworthy. It can take you through NLP, shadow work, inner self, like inner child work, like the AI, your digital twin will do that right now. So this is a whole new ball game we're talking about. This is literally like, imagine if I could talk to spirit, my spirit, and get an understanding about what I'm even supposed to be doing, who I even am, why I'm even on the planet, what are my gifts and abilities, how would I use them. This is spirit intelligence. So I'm very excited about that coming to life very, very soon.
I'm sure humans will open it with open arms and be super excited about.
As with anything. And someone passed on to me recently, if you've never seen it, Einstein's letter to his daughter. I don't know if you've ever seen that. You should check it out and go Google it if you haven't heard about this. And it was him essentially saying, I'll paraphrase and do a terrible job of this, essentially him saying, hey, everybody in the world took forever to adopt my things that were here. Like, most people had resistance. They didn't understand what was going on. They couldn't explain it, and so they resisted it for decades.
Yes.
And it took the societal consciousness.
Long after he passed away before it became...
So long for them to even believe what I was saying was even a thing. And his letter to his daughter was around, I've understood the meaning and the thing that we can't explain, and he thinks the next evolution, and it's love. And that was his letter. It's an amazing letter, and even the consciousness we have today understands, like, wow, that's powerful. Back then it was like no one really knew what that even meant. And so everyone talks about love is everything and everything is love these days. No one's figured out or quantified that yet. We're working towards these things. So it's a really powerful letter in the fact that it's society doesn't understand. It'll judge it. It'll crucify whatever's being said. We're expecting exactly the same. Like, we haven't evolved that much as humans, as society. I envisage even people listening to this today, if there's religious people will have a problem with the things that I just even said on this podcast.
The Antichrist, the end of the world, your AI overlords. Just wait for it.
And the technology people will be skeptical about this thing, and the medical people will say, well, that's not a thing you can do. Like, I understand that. And I actually got invited to do a TED Talk in 2015 on personalized health and epigenetics. And I delivered that talk, and actually one of the things I said in that talk, which you can go Google and watch at some point, one of the things I said in that talk was what you touched on earlier in this conversation, was the way that we do science and medicine now is actually negligent.
Barbaric in some cases.
Yeah, I said in the future, we're actually going to look back and say the way we're doing medicine, where you can come to see me and I can give you generic advice and generic medicine based on, again, if you, I, and everyone else around us all had the same blood pressure reading and the same labs and the same whatever else that's there, we'd get the same thing. We'd get the same drug or the same protocol to follow, or get referred to the same specialist that would do the same thing. Like, that's actually negligent. Actually negligent. We have the science, the medicine, and technology available in my TED Talk in 2015, almost 10 years ago, to actually do different. And here we are, and 10 years from now, still be doing generic medicine, generic health, generic science, and that's where we're at right now. So actually, the things we're doing are very negligent because we know better. And stated here again, you can look at it publicly 9 years ago, stated that we're negligent, but we're still okay with that for some reason. At some point, we're not going to be okay with that. At some point,
when the system breaks down to a point where, and we're there, right?
We're almost there. At some point, my kids at my school, or the way my doctor told me to do this, or the way the system's not doing that. Like,
we're in an interesting time in history, and you and I have talked about this a few times, and we got to wrap up here for today. But there's a few things. I can't think of a time in this millennia in which every major institution is being challenged at the same time. We have massive distrust for capitalism. We generally have massive distrust for government, which is always present, but it's at a crescendo right now. We have distrust for our neighbor. We have distrust from somebody from an opposite party. I just read a stat that 41% of people thought it was unacceptable to be friends with somebody who doesn't subscribe to your same political party. Right? Like what? We don't trust our medical system. We are losing trust in our scientific community. Religion is massively in decline. Participation in religion is massively in decline. Marriage is changing. People aren't getting married. They're getting married later. They're changing their views of what marriage is. Like all of these institutions are being challenged and questioned all at the same time. And kind of a through line in what we're talking about today is that the reason is really a positive one. It may be scary here for a little bit, right? Because things are going to get pretty fucking shaky and wild, but we're going to rebuild these systems. And this is this happens in repeating patterns throughout history. So it can seem scary, and it will definitely probably create a level of instability that will be scary, but we'll rebuild these systems better and updated for a new era. And to me, that's what I get really, really excited about, and seeing like, wow, there's a lot that's changing all at once, but technology like this, I believe, is one of the solutions to bring us into the future. And there's an old saying, and I generally agree with it: if you're a leader, you walk with the people. If you're a visionary, you walk ahead of the people. If you're a revolutionary, you're way ahead of the people. And if you're a, what's the last one? You end up becoming a martyr. If you're too far ahead of the people, you end up becoming a martyr. But for some reason, I'm not remembering the last one at the moment.
Yeah.
But humans don't change quickly, right? It's a slow process of change. And so I would encourage anybody who's scared or judgmental of some of the things they're hearing today, take a step back, go, hey, what is it that's informing this fear? What is it that I'm believing about my world that makes this scary to me? Because we could rapidly increase change in a positive way if more people choose to get aligned instead of resisting change. Because come on, if you studied history, nothing is more certain than change. This is a changing planet. And I loved what you said, and you said it very eloquently and softly, but Mother Earth herself may very well do the work for us if we don't. And it is, you mentioned earlier, and we did it in kind of passing, so maybe it didn't hit for a lot of people, but it's one ecosystem, and we're all connected in a single ecosystem, and the entire thing is going through an incredible change right now. And we have a role to play. We have the ability to participate in a positive way, or we can reject it. Rejecting it isn't going to stop it, though. This is going to happen. So I want to come back to something, and then we got to land this plane for today. So what's your take on population decline or population collapse? Where are you with that? And you said, I loved what you said. You're like, well, it's not an opinion, it's science, it's data. So where do you lie in that?
So as you know, I see things in the future.
You do.
So these are things I've already seen that I share more openly now. I never used to at all, because for that reason, you'd end up as a martyr or get judged.
Sure, it wins in it definitely wins in social debates. So people love it, I'm sure, in social circles.
Yeah. So so I see in the future that we're going to be having a big collapse, that there'll be another event that's coming not too far away, where call it a pandemic round 2, where there's going to be a lot of things that we're challenged with, and we're going to be challenged on our biological level. So again, if you think back to COVID, which was made to be a lot more scary than what it was, however, it was more significant than not. Like from a scientific point of view, it was real.
And you, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to put something in here, because you said this in one of our discussions. I thought it was brilliant. The biggest concern about how COVID was handled was there was an insane amount of skepticism around it. And you're saying, hey, it was very real, and people absolutely died from this thing, but our handling of it may have made it turn it into a bigger problem than it was, not only for 2021, 2021, but in the future, we may have something show up that is actually incredibly significant, and we'll have an arrogant population that's like, oh, yeah, we've seen this before. Like, we know this game.
Well, it's actually to that point. So let's say we're challenged physically on our physical levels and biologically to something more significant than COVID. So it's concerning. And to that second point is we're not just challenged biologically or physically, we're now challenged mentally and emotionally, because round 2 comes and
you set the stage. Your biology impacts your psychology.
Do you trust the government? They're like, oh, don't worry, guys, we've got a vaccine for that.
And
just
like,
line them up,
right?
Line them up, and we'll jab you for it. I don't know anyone in the world who's not going to at least have a second question about that next time round. and many, many people that are like, I'm not doing that.
Rightfully so, but then when we react to error, we often cause more error.
Right. So the point is, at that time in the future, we're being challenged. So we're under threat biologically. We're also very much in doubt and fear and confusion with who do I trust.
High levels of
because
distrust.
suddenly government's telling me to do this. I don't know if I trust government. My best friend is telling me this. I don't know if I even trust him. You saw what divided like families over COVID. Their belief, get a vaccine or not. Like it tore families apart. Best friends for life gone, like because someone believed this and someone believed this. So suddenly I don't know, do I trust the government? Do I trust my friend? Do I trust my family? I don't know who to trust here. So I'm in this overwhelmed state. And you can imagine if you're actually lying in bed sick and someone's saying, hey, take the red pill. Someone else is saying, no, take the purple pill. I'm like, I don't even know who to trust. I don't know what to do right now. I'm like literally just at a loss. So biologically, physically, we're challenged. Psychologically and mentally, we're challenged. And then you throw in the third piece, which is what I see as the reason why we're going to have population decline. Mother Earth decides to say, it's probably about time. And what does that look like? People often ask me. I'm like, well, you'll be seeing a lot more floods, fires, earthquakes, purging, natural clearing out of things that shouldn't be here.
Yep.
It's already begun. We'll be seeing a lot more prevalence of it, guaranteed. And there'll be a lot bigger rebalances that happen, stuff outside of Earth as well, that will be happening to influence
fifth dimension and beyond.
Who we are.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be where we're looking at in the future. So if you can imagine a time and space where like, wow, I'm under threat here. I'm suffering biologically and physically. I'm confused. I've got doubt and fear everywhere throughout me. And there's manic going on in the world around us, and the whole population's got unrest. Like, so this is the thing that's coming. So there'll be a natural decline in population biologically at that level, psychologically, and also environmentally, if you want to use those words.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a natural evolution. I won't use the word survival of the fittest, but that kind of concept that will kind of come on the other side. And that then breeds rise, if you can imagine more the people that do survive this come to the other side to say, hey, Sebastian, dude, we've got to regroup on this whole thing. Like what we had as we knew it is down.
Yeah.
Like we need to rethink of a new system. Any ideas?
Yep.
And we're like, oh, actually, a few of us have got some good ideas about what we could do next time for the evolution. Again, we've evolved plenty in the past as humans. We'll evolve again. But there'll be a time and a place where it's like, what we did isn't working. We need to change things significantly. Let's rebuild what we've got. And this is really where I see the work that we're doing now is going to be coming to play a lot, which is, we don't have the trust. We don't have the foundations of understanding who we are physically, biologically, or even what to do. We need to have a trusted, non-emotional decision maker advisor that can be here to help us, to support us, which is tech for good, to help me personally, not to help you, but to help me, and then you to help you, and then collectively to help what we're doing to be able to rebuild and survive what we're going next. So it's this evolution of consciousness. Lots of people talk about consciousness is evolving. It is, believe it or not. But these times that will have us go through this challenge will cause us to evolve even more. But it is where these worlds kind of divide a little bit, where the people who get it see the positives in the evolution. The people that don't get it experience the suffering and pain. And that's the nature of how it will be. I wish that would be different. But if we could help everybody evolve consciously between now and then, that would be amazing.
As we can.
But it would require literally big decision makers to make big different decisions to support the things that we're bringing to life here and get behind that. So that's my long answer to the population will be declining, and it's not too far away.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for answering that. I think you did a beautiful job. I think that's tough for a lot of people to hear. Probably some people will reject it out of just pure fear. We don't know what to do with information we don't know what to do with.
Exactly.
And so so much of my work and what I'm so passionate about is teaching people how to think, not what to think, so that I wasn't a big fan, for instance, and I was fairly outspoken about how COVID was handled, but a lot of that was coming from an intuition about what was going on. But I trust my intuition, right? And so if you're connected to yourself, you're connected to higher self, and you have an objective way of looking at the world, it is easier to take the information in front of you and not make the same mistake twice or make the same decision twice out of pure principle, but seeing what are the differences, right? How are we looking at this? And so you're not just conditioned. However, I don't think that's how most humans show up to the game, right? And so that distrust that was bred with how COVID was handled, it's easy for me to see how something far more serious shows up. And now we've got a bunch of people that don't even want to listen because they're like, yeah, I remember this.
Well, this is probably our final point for today, but what you just touched on there, and I love how you approach things in terms of teaching people how to think. There's a problem with that. And And the problem is that most people don't know how to think, so it's a good thing. The problem is that if somebody does something, they don't necessarily learn from what they do the second time, third time. Some people do. And again, we profile this and the phenotype. Like your digital twin will tell you if you're going to learn or not learn from what you do. It's really powerful to understand that. But in terms of how to think, lots of people don't know how to think. And even if you taught them how to think, they don't know how to think or how to continue with thinking that way, or it's beyond where they are at that point in time. And so you have to really meet them where they're at again. And some people need to know what to think for a while until they can learn who they are, which is their identity.
Had this discussion many times.
And once they understand who they are, then understand why they're even here, then they can actually reconnect with their intuition, as you call it there, to actually then understand how they uniquely would then be able to think and how to think. And so there's quite a few steps to go through that. And that's, again, one of the big reasons why we do what we do, is because there's a lot of people that don't know how to think, or even if they're trying to think, they don't know if it's right or wrong. They don't have the intuition that you have naturally. They're struggling out there and they don't know who to listen to, and it's confusing when this person's telling me this and this person's telling me this, and myself, I don't even know where to go. Imagine if you just have something here that can help guide you and give you a direct, objective assessment to help you navigate that until you're at the point where you can do it yourself. So in the future, there's no need for anything like this because we're all enlightened and connected in with who we are consciously.
We're not there yet.
Then, we're not. And maybe for the final demo, if you're open for it, you could ask a conscious question or something that's to do with the digital twin here, to ask it something around that aspect or something to do with enlightenment, quantum consciousness, something that's there that might be relevant. Because this is where I just wanted to showcase that if we could live, because it's the final.
I got a few questions. Let's see what it does in there, and I don't know.
Call Matt Digital Twin.
Calling Matt Digital Twin Riemann mobile.
Okay.
How can I help?
Hi, Matt. Could you explain to us or define spiritual technology?
Spiritual technology is about leveraging advanced tools and techniques to deepen our spiritual practices and enhance our connection with higher states of consciousness. It integrates modern innovations in neuroscience, psychology, and bioengineering to support spiritual growth. Think of it as using devices like biofeedback tools, heart rate variability monitors, or even virtual reality applications to enhance meditation, mindfulness, and overall well-being. For example, using a HeartMath device can help you monitor your heart rate variability and achieve a state of coherence by focusing on breathing and positive emotions. Or you might use a Muse headband to track brainwave activity during meditation, helping you understand and improve your mental state. The idea is to combine these technologies with traditional spiritual practices to create a more personalized and effective approach to spiritual growth. This can lead to greater awareness, inner peace, and a deeper connection with your true self and the universe. How do you currently integrate technology into your spiritual practices?
You can just ask over a question.
One more question. Hi, Matt. I appreciate taking the question. How would you describe the current state of human consciousness, and how can we raise human consciousness on Earth?
Human consciousness is a fascinating and complex phenomenon. It encompasses our awareness, thoughts, emotions, and the very essence of our being. To raise human consciousness on Earth, we need to focus on both individual and collective efforts. On an individual level, expanding personal consciousness involves practices like mindfulness, meditation, and self-reflection. These practices help us become more aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, leading to greater self-understanding and emotional intelligence. Techniques such as cognitive behavioral methods and neuroplasticity exercises can also play a significant role in enhancing our mental clarity and emotional regulation. Collectively, raising human consciousness requires fostering communities that support mindfulness and spiritual growth. Engaging in social interactions and building networks of like-minded individuals can enrich our journey. Sharing knowledge and experiences through workshops, talks, or online platforms can promote awareness and inspire others to embark on their own paths of consciousness expansion. Moreover, integrating advanced technologies like biofeedback tools and heart rate variability monitors can enhance our spiritual practices and deepen our connection with higher states of consciousness. These tools provide real-time feedback, helping us to achieve states of coherence and mindfulness more effectively. By embracing these practices and technologies, we can cultivate a more conscious and intentional life, contributing to a global shift towards greater awareness, compassion, and interconnectedness. How do you currently integrate practices?
It's incredible. Matt, this has been a far-ranging conversation and one that I thoroughly enjoyed. I so love our conversation on and off camera. Thank you so much for today. Where can people find out more about you, more about Shae? How can they get involved?
Yeah, thanks for having us here today. Go to shae.group and it will give a showcase and a high level of all the different technologies and industries and applications that we've got Shae Intelligence into. Again, whether it's from schools or through medicine, corporates, health and fitness, whatever that we've across the board. So shae.group is the website. And if you want to find out more about me and the work that I do, mattriemann.com, MattrieMann.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. So great having you on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.